Rowan here, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be recommending some of my favorite Uncompleted series. So for this video, the series that I'm counting are series that I've read where all the books are not released yet for that series, but there has to be at least two. So I'm not doing just like the first book in a series. I'll probably end up doing a different video for those some other time. But this one's more series specific, so it's got to have at least two books out. The first series I have to recommend, of course, is my favorite series right now, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I love this series to death. Awesome, awesome fantasy, one of the best heroines of all time. I absolutely love Selena Sardothian. And you get to know her over the books, and it feels like she's an actual person because of that. I definitely recommend this series if you like young adult fantasy or just fantasy in general. I think it's great. And if you like a strong heroine, this is definitely a series for you to check out. Another series I just recently started, actually, is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This has 3 books out so far, and I'm not sure when the next one's coming out or how many there's going to be total. But this series is another really fantastic fantasy series. It's kind of like a less complicated young adult Game of Thrones, I guess. It has kind of that same aspect of different like royal families, and they're all kind of have the same goal in mind, and like treachery and death, and it's really good actually. I put off reading this series for a long time just because I just never got around to it, but I'm so happy I picked it up. It was a lot more interesting and intense than I expected. So if you like fantasy or if you like Game of Thrones, I would definitely recommend this. Another one of my favorite series is the Kate Daniel series by Ilona Andrews. This series, I have no idea how many books there are going to be. I think there's 8 out so far maybe, but I really, really love these books. They're really fantastic urban fantasy, one of my favorite urban fantasy series of all time. Has another really kick-ass heroine, really, really interesting characters, a really fascinating world. I love the world in this. It's one of my favorite parts. It's got a really cool like magic system and lots of really interesting mythologies mixed in. I love these books. They're definitely more adult than young adult. There's some sex and stuff in them, but nothing like horribly graphic, so I would definitely recommend these. Sometimes they're more of a light read, but they never really make you feel like you're reading a stupid book. The plot is always interesting enough that you don't feel like the author's like insulting you by just like having like stupid things and the answers handed to you. You know what I mean? Like even though it is kind of a light read, it keeps you really intrigued, and I feel like they're pretty smart. Okay, the next series, I'm actually super excited that I can include this because as far as I knew, this series was over after the 3rd book. But the author actually announced a while ago that she was doing a 4th book in the series, and I think it's actually already come out. I haven't checked it out yet. But that is Poison Study by Maria V. Schneider. The reason I haven't checked out the newest book, Shadow Study, is because I actually have not finished this series. I've only read the 1st book and part of the 2nd. So you're probably asking why this is on like a recommendation list, and that is because this 1st book is so good. Like really, I know I need to read the other 2 and I know that I will love them, but this 1st one is just so good, and it's such a comfort read for me to turn to that I've been putting off having the rest of the series because then like if I want to read it, I'll have to read the whole series. I know that sounds weird and you guys probably think I'm a weirdo right now, but this book for me has just been such a nostalgic like 1st book in a series that the thought of actually reading the series is just like foreign to me. I don't know. But I really love this series. Another really strong heroine, but she's not really like badass like Kate or Selena. They're kind of more like badass, sword-wielding, assassin, whatever. She's more, Yelena in this series is more smart. She's definitely smart. She's quick on her feet. And I really love her, and I love the love interest in this book. Oh, this series is really great. Another good fantasy world, another interesting magic system. You should check it out if you haven't yet. Another series I love right now, and excuse the sticker mark on my book, is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I really love this series. I love fairy tales and fairy tale retellings. You guys probably know that. I talk about it all the time. And these books are just so fun and interesting and clever, and they're really, really great. I kind of go to these as like my rainy day books. Each book has kind of different main characters, but everything is kind of tied together. And each new character introduced in the book kind of has to do with a different fairy tale. and it is so good. This series is actually ending this year, unfortunately. Winter is coming out at some point in time, so that just means now is the perfect time to catch up and read all these books if you haven't yet. The next series is another one that I didn't think I could put on here until the author announced that she's actually doing a 4th book in this series, and that is the Alice in Zombieland series by Gina Showalter. These books are not the best in the world. I'm just going to say that straight up. They are kind of cheesy and cliche sometimes, and definitely can be a little, like, over the top with certain things. However, these are some of, like, the funnest books I've read in the last few months. This series is one of those series that I would just curl up on a rainy day with and, like, giggle over some of the absurdity and swoon over the romance. You know, the plot isn't the most intriguing or intelligent, but it's fun. It's like watching, like, a dorky movie. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to read intelligently or, like, super interesting intellectual books. No, I mean, you can read fun stuff. And this is definitely a fun series. The next book series is one I actually just picked up recently, and that is the Arcana Chronicles, I believe, by Chrisley Cole. The first one is Poison Princess. And I'd never really heard anything about this series. I definitely think it is underrated. So underrated. And it is so interesting and weird, but weird in a way that works, and it was not what I expected. I want people to read this series so I can talk to them about it. It's really kind of strange. I'll explain the general plotline, and it's going to sound weird, but I promise you that it works a lot better than it sounds. It's about a girl, kind of a rich, snobby southern girl, that keeps having all these weird dreams about the end of the world. And it happens, and so it's like a post-apocalyptic book, but with that, there's this weird underlying, like, fantasy theme where her and a bunch of other kids are the major arcana from tarot cards. So she's like the Empress, and then there's like Death or the Fool or whatever, and they're all living in this post-apocalyptic world now, and they have weird powers, and they're playing like part of an ancient game where they're supposed to kill each other, basically, and the last one standing gets to, like, live until the next game, eternally, or something, I don't know. So, like I said, it sounds weird, but it's actually really interesting and really kind of creative and original, and I really enjoy this series. I think more people should read it for sure. The next series on my list is The Other series by Anne Bishop, the first one being written in red. This and the Kate Daniels series are my 2 favorite urban fantasy series for different reasons. Whereas the Kate Daniels series is really, like, interesting and kick-ass and just kind of like that great fantasy book, this is more of a realistic urban fantasy series with, like, really dark, gritty, like, what the world would be like if we actually found out that supernatural creatures existed, and it's so good. This series is just really interesting and has a lot more depth than I expected and really interesting characters, and I really love this series. I've only read the first 2. I know the 3rd one came out a month or 2 ago, I think. I haven't picked it up yet, but there's no doubt in my mind that it will not disappoint. This series is absolutely fantastic. Okay, and then the last Uncompleted series that I'm going to be recommending is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. The last book is coming out this year as well, which makes me so sad because I adore these books. This series is about a girl named Blue who lives in a house full of psychics, and she's been told all of her life that if she kisses her true love, he's going to die. And she goes out with her mother one night to watch, not quite the spirits, but like, we'll call them shades. The shades of all the people that are going to die go past, and she sees a boy that she knows from this kind of prestigious, like, all-boys school. And she finds out that this boy Gansey and his group of friends are looking for this ancient, slumbering, like, Celtic king. It sounds kind of weird and like a strange mishmash, but Maggie Stiefvater does such a great job in this book of creating such wonderful characters. I mean, these boys, I want to be their friends so bad, and it's just so, like, eerie and intriguing, and the writing is absolutely beautiful, and this series is so great. It's another series I don't really hear people talking about much, which makes me really sad because I think they are absolutely wonderful. If you like kind of more of a realistic fantasy, more like, you know, like paranormal, supernatural instead of like a fantasy world, I would definitely check this out. I think it is so good. Alright, you guys, so those are all of the Uncompleted series I'm going to recommend to you. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you think, or if you've been thinking about reading them, or anything of that sort. I really think they're all great, and the couple that are going to be ending this year makes me so sad. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.